everyone, I'm Damini, your host for today, and today we have with us Advocate Danesh Mehta, who's an associate at M. Mulla Associate. So, welcome, sir, and thank you so much for accepting our invitation.
Thank you, Damini. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much, sir. So, to start with, so just tell us something about you, your college life. How is all that?
Well, I'm a Bombay boy, born and brought up here in Bombay. And I started off by doing a Bachelor in Management Studies degree, and post which I did my law. College, I was actually did a lot of extracurricular activities. So law was not something that I'd always thought I would do. It was something that I decided to do at a later stage. So I was actually a lot into theater during my earlier degree. So yeah, it was fun. It was a fun time.
Okay, so just tell us something about your internship experience because the time you decided to look law, like that was compulsory, to go for internships and all that. So
Right.
was your journey also same like the other law students who are struggling to find internships?
Well, my journey was slightly different because my uncle is a lawyer and solicitor, so he has his own law firm. But yes, during my 3 years of studying law and doing my LLB degree, I did intern at his firm for 2.5 years almost. So it was such a long internship at the same place was a big advantage. Also, fortunately, attendance was not a big issue at the college. And in fact, I also did an internship with Justice Nariman in the Supreme Court for about a month. So that was also quite an eye-opening experience.
Are you a first generation lawyer, second or third?
So neither of my parents are lawyers, but my uncles and my grandfather, they are lawyers. So technically I'm a first generation lawyer, but I'm from
Wow.
a family.
So how many internships you did?
So I think it was around two internships. As I said, one was a very long-term internship at the firm, the same firm that I'm currently working at, Emula Associates, and the other internship was in the Supreme Court.
So, what would you say to the other law students who are actually struggling to find internships? Nah? Like, they don't have any connections or something like that. So, what would you say?
Well, obviously, we are talking about post-COVID times. Pre-COVID was very different, where you could get internships. But I say look at the glass half full because COVID has led to something called as online internships, which was not something that we had heard of before. In fact, in our very own firm, we have interns who are from other cities in India, which would never have happened before. So you get not only to us lawyers get to interact with students from other cities, but we also get the other students from other cities get to interact with other lawyers. So I say that take advantage of these online internships for whatever you come across, and of course, paying is a big factor as an intern. Not everyone gets paid on an intern level, but I think things are changing slowly.
You just said that, in your firm also you take interns, like after this COVID or during the COVID times,
Right.
you took like interns for the virtual internship. So, just tell us something about the procedure. How should one apply?
Well, you of course you apply on a firm's ID, which takes such applications. Though I get a lot of messages on LinkedIn where students are requesting, and of course I direct them to apply through the firm. And based, of course, there's quite high competition considering the fact that so many law students are looking for internships. But I think a good CV and a well-spoken person, or even a good message that you receive, can go a long way in that regard. Because you can my inbox sometimes gets flooded with uh, people asking for internships, but I have to be really picky. I mean, there's no choice. You can't take everyone.
And what about the criteria? Like you take students from third year, fourth year, fifth year, or second year, or what is the
Well,
criteria?
there is no particular eligibility as such on which year you are. Of course, you have to be doing law. The final decision is obviously taken by the partners of which intern and how many interns should come in. But I think it's all about how your intention to want to learn more and hardworking attitude. I think that's what really helps.
Sometimes you receive CVs and the cover letters. So is there any
Right.
suggestion for those like who thinks that they have the good CV and cover letter, but you people actually tell them that no, this is not right. So what are the common mistakes people do?
Well, I get a lot of, as I say, cold emails where people you have never met before send you certain questions or certain emails saying, can I please intern? And just a few pointers I think people should keep in mind. One is keep your email or message extremely brief and to the point. Uh, I don't want to, and I don't think anyone wants to see long paragraphs on what you've done. I mean, that's what the CV is for. So your covering email should be very to the point, who you are, what you do, and what you're looking for. And the CV itself, I mean, I follow the principle of a one-page CV. So your CV should not be more than one page. It should be again to the point, bullet points preferably, I would say, and it should just bring out what you have learned and what you have done before. So, like, of course, if you apply to an IPR law firm or a corporate law firm, accordingly, you strengthen those points when you put it across in your CV.
You said that you prefer a CV for only one page. So right now
Yes.
the viewers might have the question like, how do we send one page CV only? So can you just tell them
Well,
what
sure.
not? Yeah.
The thing is, the one page CV concept is maybe something new in India, but actually, on a global standard, it's what's commonly looked for. I myself have worked in America and done a master's degree there, and they are also extremely particular. In fact, they go to the point of saying that if you send a two-pager or three-pager CV, the chances of the interviewer not seeing the second and third page is extremely high. So keeping that in mind, and also look at it from another perspective and put yourself in the interviewer's shoes. Someone's applying a job to you. You want him to put across his points briefly. You don't have the time to go through so many series. You want to give a glance and immediately get to know, okay, this is what the person's done. This is how good he is at his work. So people don't have time to go through a lot of series, and especially in our profession where people are always looking for internships or jobs. It's, I think, a good idea to be very particular on what you want to put across.
Now students would ask like, I have done mood, I have done mediation competitions, I have presented papers in the conferences, I have done internships as well, I have some
Right.
posts as well. So what to mention and what not as per you? Like what are the important points which needs to be there in the one page CV? I think that is
That,
a
that,
great
that's a good- that's a great question. According to me, it all depends on where you're applying. So, for example, if you're applying to a litigation law firm, then yes, your moot court experience is important to discuss. When you apply to a corporate law firm, maybe they are not so interested in your moot court experience. They probably might be more interested in maybe certain deals that you have done or certain acts that you have researched on. So I think if you tailor make your CV, I know it might be a bit of a pain because CV is usually the same piece of document that you might send to multiple organizations. But I think if you tailor make it to the specifications of what you think that organization might look for, it might be a good thing for you.
Okay, so I think that is a great idea, na, to make a one-page CV. So don't you think that people would say that it's a huge work, like they need to research about the firm and then to, add those moot court competitions or mediations as well, like if they are going for the arbitration one. So like what would
Right.
you say?
I,
That people would say na, that it's a huge work. So what would you say for them?
well, you mean it's huge work to work on the CV?
Obviously, the students might say this, na.
But
So
what is your end goal is to join an organization. I mean,
right.
that's your entry card. So you have to, of course, put in work in that. I mean, that's what's going to take you to probably join the firm. So And I mean, you find an abundant amount of sample CVs online. You can see CVs of yes, great CEOs of companies. You'll find CVs. Harvard Law Review will probably issue their sample CVs. So there's so many types of CVs, and you of course stick to the format that you think looks best for you. But remember, before sending off a CV, put yourself in the shoes of the person who's going to read it and say, okay, do you think this is something that that person will be interested in reading? You know, you don't wants to know that, okay, everyone knows you're going to be hardworking. Everyone says, oh, you're a team worker, but you need to put across certain solid points that will make you unique from the others.
And what about the cover letter? That was all about the CV. So what do you expect from an intern? Like, what should be a cover letter look like?
Well, a cover letter should also be, I think, very simple and to the point. I, in fact, receive a lot of covering emails and attaching the CVs, not cover letter themselves. And so I can talk from that standpoint of what feedback I can give is that, like, again, don't put down 4 or 5 paragraphs about, what you've done, because I'll see that in your CV. You rather talk about something more current or just about your most recent internship or what you have, like something that would probably catch my eye and be like, okay, maybe this she or he might be a good fit as an intern in the firm.
So that was all about the CV and the cover letter. So like, you're very active on LinkedIn. Whenever I open my
Yes.
LinkedIn account, I see your posts and all that. So what kind of content do you share? And were you active during your college days as well, or just, when you...
Well, I actually have been active on LinkedIn only since the lockdown, and that because staying at home, you find things to do, and I think LinkedIn's a great way to like communicate with the business world. The kind of content I share, I try and take a slightly different perspective to the profession instead of putting usual posts on law and updates and latest Supreme Court judgments. I try and take a more practical approach about what lawyers or law students might face in law firms or in the profession and talk about more practical related issues. That's my style of posting on LinkedIn. And another advantage I think of LinkedIn is like, unlike writing an article which is published, you'll never know if someone appreciates it or likes it unless they, like probably drop you an email or something. But with LinkedIn, the very fact that you have a like button or a like icon shows that, so many people have liked it. So you can actually gauge the quantity of people who have read the post and appreciated it.
So to be on more informal note, we'll play a rapid fire now. So I'll ask you the question and you quickly need to answer them. So just tell me how many followers you have on LinkedIn. Just to check, like you're very active on LinkedIn.
Over 2,000, I guess.
That's great. That's a good number. So just tell me the percentage of attendance you had in your college.
It was extremely low. I mean, it was not compulsory and I took that time to like work
But
instead.
still 50 or 60 or just 20?
Probably 20.
Probably 20. Okay. So the worst punishment you got?
Well, I didn't attend enough to get a punishment.
No,
but probably if I
maybe
punishment was to attend.
Oh, punishment was to attend. Okay. The best experience of yours. You remember it till today.
You mean in law school?
Maybe in law school or just the school or into the law firm as well.
So I, as I mentioned earlier, I was a lot into theater. So actually, when I went for my master's degree to Northwestern, I actually co-directed their annual musical over there, which was the school's law play. So that was a great experience.
Okay, so if not law, I think the answer is very obvious and I know that, but still, if not law, then what would be the other profession you would have gone for?
Well, as you may have guessed, I really enjoyed theater a lot. I actually was also acted in a few YouTube videos, directed a few comedy YouTube videos. So maybe like a comedian come actor.
Okay. That's all. So just tell me, like you said that you never went to a college, itna jitna jana chahiye tha, but still, was there any professor who used to cut your attendance, even if you don't talk?
No, because I didn't go there enough. And I'm not saying it was a good thing to not attend. Of course, attendance is very important. Uh, I mean, it's just that it's just certain colleges which are lax about it. Then you feel that you rather use that time to intern somewhere. You can gain a lot of more practical knowledge. But of course, I think attending is very important as well.
Like one of my favorite question, if you are given a chance to amend any law or any provision or any section of any particular act, what would it be and why?
Well, I think maybe keep all bars and restaurants on 24/7. Don't give them a time.
Even I think like you suffered a lot during this pandemic, right?
We all have.
Yeah, exactly. So like why you want to change that? Is there any specific reason?
Just on a lighter note, no. I mean, okay, they take things a little more seriously. If I had to change a particular law, it would probably be related to, I mean, more than law, probably court procedure. That's something according to me that really needs change because the amount of backlog that we have. So I mean the acts that we have in our country, they are very in-depth and they are very exhaustive. So talking about changing them is something that you really need to research on before saying that. But I think more on a procedural level, that is something which I think we should all try to get better at, more efficient, much more better.
And what is your stand about All India Judicial Services?
Well, I don't have any particular opinion on it. I mean, it's what it is, and I mean, I really hope that uh, the profession keeps raising the bar every year with how things go.
Any one word which can substitute a lawyer? Like lawyer is equal to what?
I think all-rounder. I mean, I don't know if all-rounder is one word, but I think a lawyer is an all-rounder because not only will he have to deal with cases that, maybe regarding accounting, business, criminal, such a wide range of matters, such a diverse field that if you're a lawyer with such a variety of matters, you are an all-rounder, according to me.
Yeah, that's actually true. So just tell me, like, I think I don't have any further question. So okay, let's move on to the other part of this interview. Any advice or any suggestions or any motivational words for the batch of 2020? Like they were very depressed because of the pandemic.
Right. Yes, there's no denying that the situation is not good at the moment. There's no denying that many firms have freezed hiring, freezed internships. My point is, look at whatever little of the positive side that there is. Take advantage of that, such as more time on your hands. You may decide to research more, probably publish a research article, read more on particular laws. So this is the time of self-growth, like where everyone's been hunting for jobs. Maybe your CV might have a gap of 5 months, 6 months or more. And if I was, or if anyone was an interview and they would ask you, so what did you do during this time? I think you should have a rock solid answer. You should be able to say, you've made use of this time. It's not that you've just been sitting at home and applying for jobs. You've actually done something, learned something, done a course, written something. So I think that goes a long way. So self growth is the key at this point in time, and automatically things will get better. Eventually, they will get better, and when things get better, you should have already become like a better version of you.
After this interview, people would actually apply for the internship in your firm as well. Any suggestion for them?
Well, I think I've already mentioned it. We've gone into detail about the CV
Yeah.
covering letter, but yes, I mean, just because our firm doesn't accept you or take you as an intern, could be a number of factors. It doesn't have to necessarily do with you're not being good enough, or we don't like what you have done before. It just could be the fact that we already have interns, or we're not looking for interns. So never let that get you down. Don't get dissuaded with the fact when a lawyer or a law firm doesn't take you as an intern. There could be multiple reasons, and keep it going, keep applying. I mean, there's not one firm, right? There are so many firms and so many lawyers.
So just summarize your journey, being into this profession of law till now. How was the journey?
Well, as I mentioned, it was not something that I'd always planned to do, to become a lawyer. But once I got into the profession, I immediately started interning from the very first semester, where I still remember the first day of my internship. I was understanding who is a plaintiff, who is a defendant. So from there to where, so it's been about 5 years now, coming here, since my degree. So it's been a long time, and the journey as a lawyer has its ups and downs. There will be those days where you will have to sit up late at night or not sleep. There will be days where you get done with work early and you can enjoy the weekend. It's a balance that you have to look for. I firmly believe in a work-life balance. I am not one of those people who would like to work 24/7. So I think keeping family time and self time is as important as
I was
your job.
coming to this only, like, what are your hobbies?
Well, I like writing, which is why you probably see me so active on LinkedIn. I also like traveling. That's also something that I enjoy.
Whenever whenever I ask someone like how's your journey so far and all that, they say that they don't have time. Or people also say, na, like those who are not into law, they say, oh, lawyers, they don't have time for themselves, pure din office men, all that. So what about you? Do you have time for yourself? Do you give time to your family? Do you give time to your hobby as well?
I think that's a good question, and I think it's a very subjective question. A lot also depends on who you're working for, or if you're working under someone. If you're your own boss and you have your own law firm, or you're an independent advocate, then I think that you can set your own times. You can decide what to do, when to do. When you're working under someone, that gets difficult. You have to do it as per someone else's timelines. So I think a good boss is something that everyone should really hope for. It's not that everyone gets it. And personally, I think I try, of course, my best to have this work-life balance that I spoke about. It's not that it happens every day or every week, but I think on a bigger picture, if you try to maintain it, it's really good. And of course, it's just like something that it's a break from your work, which I think you really deserve.
And what would you say to those students who are very busy studying, doing a lot of work, like particularly the law students, and they don't follow up their dreams or their hobbies? Like I know some people, they are very good dancers, but they end up doing that because they think that they have a lot of work, they need to study and all that, and you know what, the pressure that we need to score good marks. So what would you say particularly about those who are very, who are very, what did you say? They're after marks always. They think that if you have good marks, if you top any kind of subject, you'll get good placement. Otherwise, you won't get.
So I think the very people who might just want good marks are the same ones who might later just want good money. So that's not the end all. Money is just a means to an end. It's not the end itself. Yes, getting good marks is extremely important. There's no denying that. If you want to go for a master's degree, or if you want to do a PhD or whatever, yes, your marks do count. And yes, getting serious from now makes it the journey even easier for you later. At the same time, I would not say kill your dreams. I mean, and it's not necessary that you're killing them. Like your dreams can always go on a hiatus. It doesn't have to like never come back. Like I have myself have, as you mentioned, dancers. I have a few lawyer friends. One of them was a dancer, and he then joined the profession where he was fully into his work. But after 3-4 years, when like things got more streamlined and he was used to his job, then he took up dancing again. So like it's not it's remember, when you give up something, that doesn't mean you've not given it up forever. You can always get it back. So it just depends on what you want and what your goals are.
In a way, can you please elaborate more upon time management, particularly for law students? Because what they do whenever they are in hostels, they think that they don't have time for anything. They are just researching for their moods. They are just studying the particular sections if they have exams, or they actually forget about themselves. They are particularly mental health, physical health. So what would you say for them?
Well, I think mental and physical health takes prime importance in any profession. And especially when it comes to lawyers, I mean, you don't work so hard or burn yourself out to an extent where you begin to dislike or hate, because that's quite possible. I've seen it happen where people spend sleepless nights, and the money is good. The money is good when you spend sleepless nights, but the question is that is it worth it? Because then they just get fed up, forget of the place where they work. They get fed up of the profession, and I think the legal profession is one of those professions where if you don't like your work, it's not a good place to be, because you'll not be happy, you'll not be content. So I think it's very important. I think health gets prime importance, as I said, and only when you're healthy, mentally and physically, that's when you can get good work done. So always keep that in mind.
So, like we talked about, like your activeness on LinkedIn. Any particular advice for those who contact you on LinkedIn? So, do you face any kind of problem while people contact you, or like, do you want to say something to them?
So just a few general tips that people should keep in mind, not only when they approach me or when they approach anyone on LinkedIn, like cold message. I think what's important is to maintain a certain formal language. It's not a Facebook. There's a particular way you greet someone or how you speak. Don't use incorrect grammar. Please use full sentences. And again, be to the point. Like when you receive a cold message, you probably, there's a 99% chance you've not met the person. So why would I reply, or why would I read what you've sent? So it should be very brief what your message says. As I said, just remember who you are, what do you do, and why you have messaged. So if that's simple, answer these points and you will get a reply.
And I must say, you actually reply to everyone. Even I contacted you through LinkedIn, right?
Right.
So yeah,
Yes.
so you
Yes.
actually replied within, I think, 2 or 3
I do
hours.
reply.
Yeah,
Yes, I do. I think it's, I mean, a lot of, I guess, law students or people feel that, they might not be that important to be replied to by a lot of people. But I mean, that's not a right outlook. Uh, I think that replying is like should be done promptly.
that's great. So just the last question. People say that they do not have any mentor. Do you have any, and what are your suggestions for for others, like particularly for those who say that they do not have mentor?
Well, I have my own, I think, unique outlook to this question. I myself do not have a mentor, and I'll tell you why. My mentor is the best version of myself. In the sense, I believe that yes, learn from others, look up to the people who you see as hardworking, respect their work, learn from them, and try and implement what their work ethics into your work. You don't have to be like someone else. You just have to be a better version of yourself. So take each day as an opportunity to get better than yesterday. Take each day as a way to be a better person. And I think your goal should be, as I said, I'm again repeating, like the best version of yourself. So your mentor should be how you see yourself in the next 10 or 20 years, and work towards it.
That was amazing. Even now, I think those who are watching this video, just don't say that you don't have a mentor, right? Okay, so with this, we just wrap up the whole session, and thank you so much, sir, for accepting the invitation.
Sure.
So, just
Thank
few
you.
last words for the law students.
Yeah.
Just few last words.
Uh, sure. I understand the pandemic's hit, things are not looking good, but as I mentioned, things will get better. Work on self growth, try and do some pause, try and write something, make use of your time. I mean, time is the most important aspect, even in the profession. Time gone never comes back. This is the time where you can work on yourself, and you never know, any skill that you learn, any knowledge that you learn or pick up can come of use anytime, absolutely anytime in your life.
So, I think we are done with the session. So, just for the viewers, if they have any queries, if they just want to ask something, they can easily post the queries in the comment box. And if sir, sir will have time, he'll reply for sure. If I'm not
Sure,
wrong.
sure, I will.
Yeah. So,
Yes,
thank
yes,
you so
sure.
much, sir. Thank you so much, viewers. And with this, we end up the interview.